Chronicles of a Cast Member. Volume 2, The Spectacle at the Haunted Mansion. Hey there, dear listeners. If you're tuning in for the first time, welcome. For those returning after Volume 1, The Tunnels, thank you for joining me once again. As a timid soul working at the happiest place on Earth, I've encountered quite a few chilling experiences during my time here. Today, I've decided to document the tale of my first night within the Haunted Mansion. Before the account I'm going to tell you about today, I had never stepped foot in the Haunted Mansion. I couldn't shake the rumors that circulated among cast members and guests alike, tales of real human remains left behind by devoted guests. The mere thought of breathing in the same air, possibly carrying minuscule dust particles of human ashes, sent shivers down my spine. And after what happened to me in the tunnels, I didn't want to think about the more supernatural possibilities. I could not force myself to ride it, and thankfully the Haunted Mansion wasn't even one of the positions open when I applied to be a cast member. Yet, as fate would have it, a twist of events found me facing my fears. I don't remember much about the beginning of that day, other than it had seemed to fly by. It was a couple of hours until the park closed, which meant I was already daydreaming about my video games and my couch when my manager pulled me to the side. We'll call him Richard for privacy reasons. "Listen," Richard said, "they're short-handed over at the Haunted Mansion. I know it's not your preferred assignment, but we need all hands on deck to finish out the line and close down the ride for the night." My heart skipped a beat. I hesitated, but I knew there was no room for refusal. Richard wasn't the kindest of managers, and I didn't want to start any trouble. I nodded, trying to hide the apprehension simmering in my gut. "Of course, I'll do it," I managed to reply with a nervous smile. "Good," my manager said curtly. "Just head over to the break room and change into a servant costume. I'll escort you, and the team at the Haunted Mansion will guide you through your tasks." I nodded and headed off, doing as I was told. The servant costumes were arguably one of the coolest cast member outfits, so I focused on getting ready, and even added a little spooky makeup, which was allowed at the Haunted Mansion. But I knew if I stalled too long, Richard would start complaining. I headed out of the break room and he guided me quickly through the underground tunnels, beneath the park, over to the Haunted Mansion area. Richard was efficient in his task, ensuring I reached my destination promptly before hurrying back to attend to his own duties. Left alone at the entrance of the ride, I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. Moments later, a fellow servant rushed over, a warm smile on their face. "You must be the extra help we were expecting. Welcome to the Haunted Mansion." They greeted me cheerfully. "Yep, that's me," I replied begrudgingly. "Great, you'll be stationed right here at the entrance," the servant said, pointing to a slowly moving track near the front of the line. "Your task is simple. Assist the guests as they board and exit the doom buggies. It's an easy job, and you'll be a big help." A wave of relief washed over me. The front of the line was the safest place to be, away from the heart of the mansion. Surely no one had scattered ashes at the very front of the line, right? I nodded gratefully, my confidence slightly bolstered. Surrounded by the friendly guests, laughing and sharing their excitement, I realized that perhaps my fears had been a bit exaggerated. The eerie atmosphere was, after all, part of the magic that made this ride so enchanting. With each guest's delighted smile, my own trepidation began to melt away, and I embraced my role with newfound confidence. Before I knew it, the line was empty. My fellow servants and I commenced the process of closing down the ride. It was a peculiar feeling, being surrounded by the chilling ambiance of the Haunted Mansion, while also finding a sense of belonging among the servants who worked there. I marveled at the haunting beauty of the mansion, admiring the intricate details that brought its chilling tale to life. I had to admit, with all the lights on, the mansion was actually really cool. If you didn't think about the possibility of breathing in human remains. "Hey, newcomer," one of the servants called out with a grin. "You handled that line like a pro." I couldn't help but smile, feeling a sense of pride welling up within me. "Thanks, I'm actually a bit surprised myself. I didn't think I'd like working here." Another servant chimed in. "You're a natural. The mansion's got a way of weaving its magic on us all." The camaraderie among the servants was infectious, and I eagerly shared my journey from timid fear to newfound courage. They listened intently, nodding in understanding as I recounted the rumors I'd heard. "That's the beauty of this place," a veteran servant said. "We've all faced our fears here and come out stronger. The Haunted Mansion holds its secrets, but it also offers a sense of belonging to those who dare to embrace it. Plus, there's not a spot in Magic Kingdom that hasn't touched human remains at this point." This brought out a chuckle from the other cast members, and I tried to ignore the knot in my throat. As the park closed for the night, we reveled in the surreal calm that enveloped the mansion. Gathered in the shadows, we exchanged stories and laughter. "My first time here, I was shaking like a leaf," a servant shared, chuckling. "Now I can't imagine working anywhere else." "I never thought I'd say this, but I actually enjoyed my time here," I admitted with a smile. "It's strange how our perceptions can change." "It's all part of the magic," the veteran servant replied cryptically. "The mansion has a way of showing us the unexpected." She grinned, and there was a slight twinkle in her eyes. She said, "You know, newbie, since you've conquered your fear of working here, there's one more thing you should do. Ride the Haunted Mansion." I chuckled nervously, rubbing the back of my neck. "Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, it's not like I'm scared anymore, but..." "Don't worry," another servant chimed in. "The park is closed now, and it's just us left. We'll run you through one time alone, and then you can say that you've done it." The idea was both terrifying and enticing. The Haunted Mansion, bathed in its ambient blue and purple lighting, held an air of enchantment that I couldn't resist. Yet deep down, I still hesitated. "You don't have to if you don't want to," the veteran servant assured kindly. "But trust me, there's something special about experiencing the ride for yourself. It's like seeing the magic through a different lens." The other servants nodded in agreement, their eyes filled with excitement. "Come on, you've worked here all night. You deserve a bit of fun," one of them encouraged. Reluctantly, I considered their offer. It was a rare opportunity to see the Haunted Mansion in all its glory, without the usual crowd of guests. With a deep breath, I made up my mind. "All right, I'll do it." The servants grinned, delighted by my decision. They led me to the entrance. Together, we stepped into the dimly lit stretching room, listening to the opening monologue as the portraits on the walls stretched to reveal their macabre secrets. My fellow servants then escorted me back to the front of the line, settling me into a doom buggy. The ride began, and I gripped the safety bar tightly, trying to focus on the voice of the ghost host as he guided my tour through the mansion. I couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and apprehension. I laughed and gasped as the ghostly residents of the mansion came to life, dancing and singing. The eeriness that once filled me with dread now held a fascinating allure as I passed glowing eyes that seemed to follow me. A floating candelabra, and even the haunting portrait of Constance Hatchaway. Surrounded by the ethereal glow of the ghostly scenes, I felt a sense of wonder and awe. The doom buggy passed through many more macabre and enchanting scenes, ending in a graveyard. I sat back and closed my eyes for a moment, enjoying the feeling of the air conditioning on my skin as the ghost host narrated, "Beware of hitchhiking ghosts." But as the buggy reached the exit at the end of the corridor, there was no one to greet me. The lap bar didn't lift, and the ghost host restarted their monologue as the doom buggy rounded the corner, restarting my ride. My heart started racing as I looked around, trying to figure out what was happening. "Hello?" I called out to my fellow servants, but there was no response. The empty silence only added to my unease. Suddenly, the ride stopped. The lights went out, the music cut off, and there was nothing. Just darkness at first. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end as figures began to emerge from the shadows, slowly walking toward me. My breath hitched, and I could feel a cold sweat forming on my forehead. "Hey, this isn't funny. Come on, guys," I called out again, my voice trembling. The figures were bathed in an ethereal light, and as they moved closer, the light emanating off them illuminated something I feared even more: dust. There were so many dust particles in the air. As my panic rose, I couldn't stop thinking about the possibility of breathing in human remains. The figures moved closer, and I felt encased in ashes, unable to move and unable to breathe. Before I could comprehend what was happening, my vision blurred and everything went black. When I came to, I found myself still seated in the doom buggy, but now I was alone. The figures were gone, and the lap bar was lifted. My vision had adjusted well enough that I could see my way through the darkness, so I let myself out of the buggy and onto a wooden platform that led along the length of the ride. I heard voices coming from down the hallway ahead, and I headed off that direction. I tried to push down my fear with the amount of anger I felt at my fellow cast members for just leaving me there in that buggy alone. Did they plan to just get their stuff and go home without me? But as I rounded the corner, I froze. Instead of the group of servants I expected, there stood a trio of incorporeal figures. They immediately ceased their conversation and turned to me, mouths agape. The panic swelled in my throat, cutting my breath short. But from behind me, a woman's voice called out, "We got a fainter!" She attempted to catch me as I swooned again, but I passed through her arms as if they were made of nothing but air. I landed on the ground with a thud, wincing but wide awake, due to feeling like I'd just been dunked in ice water. "Sorry about that, my love," the woman said, smiling sheepishly. "I'm Patricia, still getting used to all this." It would have been a lot more comforting if I couldn't see through her. I dusted myself off as I stood up, swallowing hard. I must be dreaming. This can't be real," I stammered. The trio of ghosts exchanged glances, and the woman who had tried to catch me spoke with a soothing tone. "Fear not, dear one. You're in no danger. We're the spirits of some of the souls whose ashes were left within these walls." I blinked in astonishment. "So you're saying you're the actual person whose ashes were left behind?" I asked, my mind reeling. The third ghost nodded, offering a sad smile. "Yes, that's correct. We're bounded to this place, unable to move on." "But why? Why can't you leave?" I inquired, my curiosity overcoming my initial fear. Patricia spoke again. "The park has a way of holding on to our spirits, especially in the haunted mansion. It's as if the magic of this place anchors us here." Most of the time, one of the other ghosts added, "But occasionally the park allows us a rare opportunity to step outside these walls and roam around Liberty Square. We call those nights the spectacle. It's a time when we can briefly experience the world outside the mansion. We relish these moments, for they're few and far between. Also, you should know that despite the rumors, the park takes great care to clean up and respect the remains left behind," Patricia reassured me. "So you needn't worry about breathing us in while working here." The other ghost chuckled and I blushed, subtly trying to take a deep breath for the first time in a while. I hadn't noticed how much my lungs were aching until I felt the tightness leaving my chest. The group then led me on a ghostly tour, pointing out various spots where their ashes had been left. As they spoke, I could feel a profound connection to the stories of those who had come before. My heart was heavy as I considered their plight. The guests that had scattered their remains hadn't done so out of malice, but surely this wasn't the eternity they pictured for their loved ones. We strolled through the haunted mansion courtyard as a warm glow enveloped the area. I looked around and saw more ghostly figures emerging from the shadows, their translucent forms dancing and promenading in an otherworldly parade. It was the spectacle, the rare moment when these trapped souls could briefly roam beyond the mansion's confines. The ghosts smiled, their faces illuminated by a surreal light. "Tonight is a special night, for you and for us. The spectacle is a time of joy and freedom for us, and you, dear cast member, are witnessing a sight few living souls ever get to see." Tears welled up in my eyes as I watched the ethereal parade, feeling humbled and privileged to be a part of this hauntingly beautiful event. Hundreds of incorporeal figures, young and old, lit up the courtyard and Liberty Square with their ethereal light. "Thank you," I whispered to Patricia. "You're welcome, my love, but now I'm going to need you to wake up," she replied. "Huh?" I answered. "Wake up!" She grabbed hold of me, her body passing through me like an icy current. I gasped awake, still in the doom buggy. Shaking me was the manager of the haunted mansion, who exclaimed with relief as I came to. "Oh, thank goodness you're awake." I looked around. I was in the same spot that the buggy had stopped earlier, when I first saw those spectral figures. "I'm so sorry. Your fellow cast members," she briefly glared over at my coworkers, who stood behind her with their heads down, "decided to take it upon themselves to give you a little initiation scare. I should have been paying closer attention. Are you all right?" Putting the pieces together, I put my head in my hands, mortified. I had been so terrified of breathing in human remains earlier that I must have held my breath until I blacked out. I nodded quietly as the manager arranged for the buggies to run in reverse, letting me out at the entrance of the ride and escorting me to the exit. I told her about my dream as she walked me out, and she chuckled. "What a dream, but that's not possible, of course." She checked her watch. "It's only midnight. The spectacle doesn't start until at least 3 a.m. She winked at me, and to this day I truly don't know if she was joking or not. And so, dear listeners, that was the eerie tale of my first night within the haunted mansion. As I reflect on that haunting experience, I can't help but marvel at the weight of the magic that lies within the happiest place on earth. And so, with newfound courage and a deeper appreciation for the enchantment that surrounds me, I continue my adventures as a cast member, exploring the many wonders and hidden tales that lie beneath the surface of this magical world. As I sign off for now, I encourage you to face your fears, embrace the magic, and beware of hitchhiking ghosts.